Title: Escalating Tensions, China's Yarlung Zangbo River Hydropower Project Sparks Concerns Over Regional Water Security. Date: January 27, 2025. Introduction. The Yarlung Zangbo River Hydropower Project, spearheaded by China in the Tibetan Plateau, has ignited escalating tensions, with India raising significant concerns over regional water security and environmental implications. This ambitious venture aims to construct the world's largest hydropower dam, which could generate nearly 300 billion kilowatt-hours of electricity annually, 3 times more than the current largest dam, the Three Gorges Dam. However, experts warn that this project could lead to severe water shortages downstream in India, where the river known as the Brahmaputra is a vital resource for millions of people. China's position and diplomatic efforts. In light of the concerns raised by India, Chinese authorities have sought to reassure their neighbor regarding the dam's construction. Wang Lei, a Chinese diplomat, emphasized that China is committed to fostering partnerships and has established over 50 water resource management agreements with neighboring countries. He stated that China will not pursue benefits at the expense of its neighbors, characterizing critics' views of the dam as exaggerated. The Chinese government has consistently insisted that the project will not harm downstream water availability or the ecological balance of the region. India's concerns and response. Conversely, Indian officials have expressed significant apprehensions regarding the potential impact of the dam on water availability and environmental health. The Brahmaputra River is crucial for millions in India, and any disruption could have severe consequences for agriculture and local communities. Indian diplomats have conveyed these concerns to China, emphasizing the need for transparent communication and cooperation over shared water resources. Competitive dam building race. A prominent theme emerging from this situation is the potential for a competitive dam building race between China and India. As China accelerates its hydropower projects, India is responding by expediting its own dam construction initiatives in Arunachal Pradesh near the disputed border. The Indian government plans to invest approximately $1 billion to fast-track the construction of 12 hydropower stations, reflecting a strategic move to assert its rights over the river's water resources. Environmental and geopolitical implications. Environmental experts have raised alarms over the dam's location in a seismically active area, warning of the risk of geological disasters such as landslides. Critics argue that the ecological and cultural consequences of such large-scale hydroengineering projects have not been adequately assessed, raising fears that local communities and biodiversity could suffer irreparably. The area surrounding the Yarlung Zangbo River is a biodiversity hotspot, and any disruption could lead to profound ecological consequences. Some analysts, like Lu Zhongyi from the Shanghai Institutes for International Studies, suggest that the dam's impact on the Brahmaputra's flow is overstated and that the project lies within China's sovereign territory. However, others argue that this could serve as a geopolitical leverage point for Beijing in its dealings with New Delhi, adding another layer of complexity to the already fraught Sino-Indian relations. Timeline of key events. 1. Project approval. The Chinese government approved the dam construction as part of its 14th five-year plan 2021 to 2025, highlighting its commitment to harnessing the hydropower potential of the Tibetan Plateau. 2. Diplomatic engagements. Following recent high-level talks between Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping, where they agreed to de-escalate tensions along their disputed Himalayan frontier, the dam's announcement has raised questions about the sustainability of these diplomatic efforts. 3. Rising tensions. As India expresses its concerns over the potential impacts of the dam, it has also accelerated its own dam building projects, showcasing a growing competitive dynamic between the two nations. Conclusion. The Yarlung Zangbo River Hydropower Project encapsulates the intersection of water security, environmental sustainability, and geopolitical rivalry in South Asia. The project highlights the urgent need for cooperative management of shared resources amidst growing nationalistic sentiments. As both China and India navigate their competing interests, the potential for either escalating tensions or fostering cooperative dialogue remains uncertain. The future of this project will significantly influence the regional landscape with implications for water security, environmental health, and diplomatic relations in South Asia. Sources: 1. South China Morning Post. China tells India Yarlung Zangbo Mega Dam in Tibet will not be at expense of neighbors. January 26, 2025. 2. Reuters. India conveys concerns to China over hydropower dam in Tibet. January 3, 2025. 3. Yahoo News. China's mega dam implications for India ties in Tibetan ecosystem. December 28, 2024. The escalating tensions surrounding China's Yarlung Zangbo River hydropower project reveal several counterintuitive aspects regarding water security, geopolitical dynamics, and environmental implications in South Asia. 1. Water security versus development. While the project is primarily framed as a means for China to enhance its energy production, potentially generating 3 times more electricity than the Three Gorges Dam, there is a counterintuitive notion that such large-scale development could result in significant water shortages for millions downstream in India. The Yarlung Zangbo becomes the Brahmaputra River once it flows into India, and its water is crucial for agriculture and daily life for many in the region. The expectation that a massive dam would benefit surrounding countries through increased energy access contrasts sharply with the fears of diminished water flow and security for India. 2. China's reassurances. China's diplomatic attempts to reassure India that it would not pursue water benefits at its neighbors' expense can be seen as counterintuitive. Despite these reassurances, the underlying mistrust in historical context of competition suggests that India's fears about potential water hegemony are not unfounded. The narrative that China prioritizes friendship and cooperation clashes with India's perception of a strategic threat, illustrating the complexity of international relations where assurances may not alleviate deeply rooted fears. 3. Environmental perspective. The project is touted as a green initiative aimed at reducing carbon reliance. Yet environmental experts warn of potential ecological disasters due to its construction in a seismically active area. The expectation that a hydropower project will contribute positively to environmental goals contrasts with the significant risks of geological instability and disruption to local ecosystems. This paradox highlights the complexities involved in large-scale infrastructure projects where economic and environmental outcomes can diverge sharply. 4. Geopolitical leverage. The idea that China's dam project could serve as a geopolitical leverage point against India is counterintuitive when considering the project's location within China's sovereign territory. While some analysts assert that the project is merely a demonstration of China's engineering capabilities, the perception in India is that it could be used strategically to gain advantages in future negotiations, thus exacerbating tensions instead of fostering cooperation, ironically. The very outcome China claims to promote. 5. Competitive dam building race. While the narrative suggests that the dam could trigger a competitive building race between India and China, it is notable that India's response, accelerating its own dam projects, might not inherently lead to better water management or security for either country. The counterintuitive outcome of dual dam building initiatives could result in a race that compromises ecological integrity and community livelihoods rather than a collaborative approach to resource management. 6. The role of trust. The commentary surrounding the project often emphasizes a lack of trust between China and India. Lu Zhongyi's assertion that the impact of China's dam building on the Brahmaputra's flow is overstated alongside India's reaction to expedite its dam construction in Arunachal Pradesh reveals a counterintuitive cycle of distrust. This situation illustrates how perceptions of threat can lead to actions that reinforce those threats, creating a self-perpetuating cycle of competition rather than collaboration. 7. Cultural and ecological consequences. The anticipated cultural and ecological ramifications of the dam project are significant yet often overlooked. The expectation that economic development will yield benefits for local communities is counterintuitive amidst warnings of irreparable environmental damage and displacement. This suggests a fundamental mismatch between development goals and the realities faced by indigenous populations and biodiversity in the region. 8. Long-term relationships. Despite the recent thaw in Sino-Indian relations, the Yarlung Zangbo project highlights how infrastructure developments can reignite historical grievances and fears. The notion that diplomacy could be undermined by a single project despite recent high-level talks underscores the fragility of international relationships where water resources are concerned. The expectation that dialogue alone can resolve underlying tensions may be overly optimistic in light of historical patterns. These counterintuitive elements in the discourse surrounding the Yarlung Zangbo hydropower project illustrate the complexities of water security, environmental sustainability, and geopolitical rivalry in South Asia, emphasizing the urgent need for collaborative management of shared resources in a context marked by nationalistic sentiments. The Yarlung Zangbo River hydropower project is a complex and multifaceted issue that raises significant concerns regarding regional water security, environmental sustainability, and geopolitical tensions between China and India. Several critical aspects of the situation are often overlooked, yet they hold profound implications for both nations and the broader region. 1. Environmental impact and geological risks. One of the most significant yet frequently understated concerns surrounding the Yarlung Zangbo project is its potential environmental impact, particularly in a seismically active region. Experts like geologist Fan Xiao have indicated that the chosen location for the dam is in a biodiversity hotspot, which could lead to irreparable damage to the fragile ecosystems of the Tibetan Plateau. The geological instability of the region raises alarms about the risk of landslides and other disasters, especially considering the area's history of seismic activity. This aspect is crucial to understanding that while the project may promise considerable energy production, the ecological costs could be catastrophic. The degradation of local environments can have downstream effects not only on ecosystems but also on the communities that depend on these natural resources. The failure to adequately measure and consider these ecological impacts during the project's planning stages could lead to severe consequences that may not be reversible. 2. Cultural displacement and social consequences. Another significant yet often overlooked element is the cultural and social impact on local communities, particularly indigenous populations. The construction of large hydropower projects typically necessitates significant land use changes which can displace communities, disrupt traditional lifestyles, and erode cultural heritage. Sayanengshu Modak, a researcher on transboundary rivers, emphasizes that the dam building spree could lead to profound ecological and cultural consequences, including the displacement of people in both Tibet and Arunachal Pradesh. The acknowledgement of this displacement aspect is critical because it highlights the human cost associated with such grand engineering projects. The voices and rights of indigenous peoples must be included in discussions about resource management and development. 3. Geopolitical implications and water security. The geopolitical dimension of the Yarlung Zangbo project is another area where nuanced understanding is often lacking. While many analysts focus on the potential for water wars and heightened competition between China and India, the implications extend beyond mere competition over resources. The dam could serve as a geopolitical leverage point for Beijing, especially in negotiations with New Delhi. Indian perspectives, as articulated by various officials, reflect a deep-seated anxiety about China's intentions regarding the Brahmaputra River's flow. The project is seen through the lens of national security, prompting India to accelerate its own dam-building initiatives. This tit-for-tat approach may lead to an arms race in infrastructure development, diverting resources away from cooperative management of shared water resources. The complexities of historical grievances, trust deficits, and the current geopolitical climate must be considered when examining this situation. The potential for the dam to exacerbate existing tensions or even provoke new conflicts is significant, particularly if India perceives the project as an existential threat to its water security. 4. Economic considerations beyond energy production. While the primary narrative surrounding the Yarlung Zangbo project focuses on its potential to produce vast amounts of electricity, the economic implications extend beyond energy generation. The project highlights China's ambitions in hydropower development and its intent to showcase its engineering prowess on a global stage. However, the economic viability of such massive projects is often questioned. Fan Xiao points out that previous dam building efforts in the region have led to oversupply and a lack of market demand, raising doubts about the sustainability of such endeavors. If the project does not yield the expected economic returns, it could strain China's resources and reflect poorly on its developmental strategies. 5. The role of international cooperation and governance. The complexities of the Yarlung Zangbo project underscore the urgent need for international cooperation and governance in managing transboundary water resources. The lack of effective frameworks for collaboration between China, India, and downstream countries like Bangladesh complicates the situation. While China has established over 50 water resource management agreements with neighboring countries, the effectiveness of these agreements in addressing concerns from downstream nations remains uncertain. The potential for misunderstandings and conflicts over water rights can be mitigated through transparent dialogue and cooperative governance frameworks, which are currently lacking. Conclusion. The Yarlung Zangbo River hydropower project represents a microcosm of broader issues related to water security, environmental sustainability, and geopolitical tensions in South Asia. The environmental risks, cultural displacement, geopolitical implications, economic considerations, and the necessity for international cooperation are critical components that require nuanced understanding and attention. Overlooking these aspects may lead to simplistic narratives that fail to capture the complexities at play. As the situation evolves, it is crucial for stakeholders to engage in informed discussions that prioritize ecological health, respect for local communities, and collaborative governance to ensure sustainable and equitable management of shared water resources. 1. Regional water security concerns. The Yarlung Zangbo River hydropower project has raised significant alarm over water security in downstream countries, particularly India and Bangladesh. The Brahmaputra River, which is crucial for millions of people in India, is at risk of severe water shortages due to China's dam construction. This situation emphasizes the geopolitical stakes involved in managing shared water resources in a region where water scarcity is becoming increasingly critical due to climate change and population growth. As India accelerates its own dam building efforts in response, the potential for conflict over water resources escalates, marking a pivotal point in Sino-Indian relations. 2. Geopolitical rivalry and strategic competition. The project is not merely an engineering endeavor but a catalyst for heightened geopolitical rivalry between China and India. The construction of the dam is likely to trigger a competitive dam building race, with India investing heavily to assert its rights over the Brahmaputra's waters. This dynamic reflects broader territorial disputes and national security concerns, as both countries view water control as a strategic asset. The competing narratives between India and China, one where India sees the dam as a threat and China portrays it as a sovereign right, illustrate the complexity of their relationship, which oscillates between cooperation and confrontation. 3. Environmental and cultural implications. Criticism surrounding the environmental impact of the Yarlung Zangbo project is substantial, particularly given its location in a seismically active region that poses risks of geological disasters. Experts warn that the dam could lead to irreversible damage to local ecosystems and biodiversity, as well as displace communities reliant on the river for their livelihoods. The cultural ramifications for indigenous populations in both Tibet and Arunachal Pradesh are profound, as large-scale hydropower projects often overlook the social dimensions of development, leading to cultural erosion and loss of heritage. For diplomatic efforts and future relations, the project complicates diplomatic efforts to stabilize Sino-Indian relations, which have shown signs of thawing after recent high-level talks. While Chinese officials have attempted to reassure India regarding the project, the underlying distrust remains a significant hurdle. The contrasting views on the dam's implications for bilateral ties, where some analysts see it as a potential flashpoint, while others downplay its significance, underscore the fragile nature of cooperation between the two nations. The future of their relationship may hinge on their ability to navigate these tensions and establish frameworks for managing shared resources collaboratively. 1. The Nile Basin Dispute. The construction of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam GERD on the Blue Nile has led to significant tensions between Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt. Ethiopia views the dam as a means to boost its economy and provide electricity to millions, while Egypt, which relies heavily on the Nile for its water supply, fears that the dam will reduce the flow of water downstream. Negotiations have often stalled, and the potential for conflict over water resources has been a recurring theme in the region. 2. The Indus Water Treaty in Kashmir. The Indus Waters Treaty, signed between India and Pakistan in 1960, governs the use of the Indus River and its tributaries. Over the years, tensions have escalated, particularly after India announced plans to build dams on rivers that flow into Pakistan. Pakistan has raised concerns over water security and has accused India of violating the treaty. The strategic importance of water in the context of the ongoing territorial disputes in Kashmir has further complicated the situation, highlighting the nexus between water resources and national security. 3. The Mekong River Dams. The construction of multiple dams along the Mekong River by China and other Southeast Asian countries has raised alarms among downstream nations like Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, and Vietnam. These countries depend on the Mekong for agriculture, fishing, and drinking water. The Chinese government has been criticized for its hydropower projects, which are believed to disrupt the river's ecosystem and affect the livelihoods of millions. The competition for resources along the Mekong has exacerbated regional tensions and prompted calls for greater cooperation and sustainable management of transboundary water resources. The Yarlung Zangbo River hydropower project represents a critical juncture in Sino-Indian relations with significant implications for regional water security and environmental sustainability. As this massive dam project unfolds, several predictions can be made about its future impact on the geopolitical landscape, water resource management, and ecological integrity in South Asia. 1. Geopolitical tensions and competition. The construction of the Yarlung Zangbo Dam is likely to exacerbate existing tensions between China and India as both nations vie for control over the Brahmaputra River's water resources. India, perceiving the dam as a direct threat to its water security, may accelerate its own dam building initiatives in Arunachal Pradesh, leading to an arms race in hydropower development. This competitive dynamic could further entrench nationalistic sentiments and hinder diplomatic efforts aimed at conflict resolution. 2. Regional water security challenges. With the Yarlung Zangbo Dam potentially causing downstream water shortages, India will face heightened challenges in managing its water resources. The Brahmaputra is crucial for millions of people in India and Bangladesh, and disruptions to its flow could lead to agricultural shortfalls impacting food security in the region. As a result, India may seek to enhance its water management strategies, including bilateral agreements with Bangladesh and investments in water conservation technologies. 3. Environmental implications. The environmental ramifications of the dam pose significant concerns. Located in a seismically active region, the construction could lead to geological disasters such as landslides, which may have devastating effects on local ecosystems and communities. The fragile biodiversity of the Tibetan Plateau and surrounding regions could be irreparably harmed, prompting international environmental advocacy and potentially leading to calls for stricter regulations on large-scale hydropower projects globally. 4. International pressure and cooperation. As the situation develops, international scrutiny of China's hydropower ambitions may increase. Countries and organizations concerned about transboundary water management and environmental protection might apply pressure on China to engage in more transparent and cooperative approaches with its neighbors. This could lead to the establishment of more robust multilateral dialogues on water resource management in the region, fostering a collaborative framework that prioritizes shared interests over unilateral pursuits. 5. Impact on local communities. The local populations affected by the construction of the Yarlung Zangbo Dam could face displacement and cultural disruptions, as India accelerates its own dam projects in response. Communities on both sides of the border may experience significant changes to their livelihoods and cultural landscapes. This could ignite social movements advocating for the rights of indigenous populations and prompt calls for more inclusive decision-making processes regarding resource management. 6. Technological innovation and investment. The competition over hydropower resources may spur technological advancements in renewable energy within both China and India. As each country seeks to establish itself as a leader in sustainable energy, investments in research and development for cleaner and more efficient hydropower technologies could increase. This innovation could extend beyond hydroelectric power, potentially leading to a broader shift toward renewable energy sources in the region. 7. Long-term strategic outcomes. In the long term, the Yarlung Zangbo project may serve as a catalyst for either conflict or cooperation between China and India, depending on the governance of shared resources. If managed effectively, this situation could lead to the establishment of a regional framework that encourages collaboration on water management, environmental protection, and disaster risk reduction. Conversely, if tensions escalate, it could result in a prolonged period of instability in the region characterized by heightened military readiness and diplomatic disputes. Conclusion. The future implications of China's Yarlung Zangbo hydropower project underscore the intricate interplay between water security, environmental sustainability, and geopolitical rivalry in South Asia. As both nations navigate these challenges, the potential for conflict or cooperation will hinge on their ability to prioritize dialogue over division and to foster a shared commitment to sustainable resource management. The coming years will be pivotal in determining whether this massive infrastructure project becomes a source of regional tension or a stepping stone toward collaborative governance of shared waters.